I would like to share an experience I had today while I was caretaking for one of my preschool students. We were at the park. It was me and this 3-year-old girl. And this park is a neighborhood park. And we usually go to this park. But this particular day, there was a good amount of children that were at this park. Mostly, they were preschool age or a little bit older. And me and this little girl, we were just playing, going down the slide many times, climbing, jumping, running, all kinds of things that little kids do. And I noticed this before when I was at the park, but I noticed when I would look around, there would always be these little kids just kind of watching, and they're very curious, and they would always try to come closer and like they listen in. And I just discovered today that there's just this group of kids that just seem to flock, right? And I never really noticed that. I was like, what are they flocking? What are they flocking around? And I noticed that these children are drawn to the presence that I offer. They are captivated. They want to know more, right? And a lot of these kids are just really drawn to me, and I've had that since I was a kid myself. And it's just one of my you can say everybody has their niche, right? Their niche, something that they're really good at, and they get recognized at. And for some reason, I'm really good at having this inner child presence that gets a lot of recognition from children of like all ages. There's this deep respect that children have for me. They recognize me. And as I continue my journey of being with children, right? I've been educating children, caretaking for children since I was basically 12, 13 years old. And that is something that continues to thrive within me, this desire to be of service to children. And I noticed why, about maybe I was like 18, 19, why I am drawn to children. And it's because I have this inner child frequency, I like to say, that is very nourishing and supportive in early childhood development. So I strive for the elementary school, the middle school, the high school, but I always find myself naturally in an environment where it's preschool level. Pretty much preschool level is something that I continue to be around. So when I began to play, we were there for maybe about an hour or so, and we just were playing and just doing all kinds of things, and a lot of these kids began to join us, right? These little kids, boys, girls, they just started to join us. And I noticed that they started to climb on me, and these are kids I've never seen in my life, right? Started to climb on me, started to just kind of sit next to me, kind of like want to touch me, and I had this revelation, you can say, today that I'm drawn to children because they understand me, right? We all want to be understood, right? Yeah, and to be understood is like the great why we're always going from relationship to relationship to relationship, right? Because we all want to be understood. But this is a different kind of I understand you. They understand me from the perspective of being fully embodied as an adult in your inner child. They are drawn to that. And still to this day, I don't necessarily understand what it is about me that has this sort of, children flocking, or in many ways, children are very curious by me, right? Even I've had elementary school kids that are very curious about me in the way that they're like, what is this? I've had kids kind of look at me like, who are you? Like, what are you? Like, what is this? Like, what is this that you're offering us? Like, this is something not, this is something that is not what my parents are doing, right? And that's not necessarily good or bad. That's just something that's different, right? I've had a lot of, especially elementary school, even high schoolers look at me like, okay, there's something different that you're doing that my parents are not. Again, not good or bad, but it's just, they give me that eye of like, this is, you have this presence that is, it's different, right? And especially the preschool, many of them, again, they don't know how to express, they don't know how to articulate, right? Like an adult, they know how to articulate. But they're very receptive. They're very sensitive. We think that they don't understand, but they do. In many ways, a lot deeper than adults, because they have this developed sensitive awareness, right? They are affected, very much so. It's just we can't, since they can't articulate like how they feel, and like, this way, the way that we adults go to like therapy, and I feel this way and I feel that, they don't do that. So we kind of make assumptions for them. But really, if only we as adults could become within ourselves that 3-4-year-old self and feel from that perspective, then we would begin to understand the sort of extraordinary gift a lot of these children have. And that gift is to be free from all beliefs, constructs of the minds, all restrictions and limitations. Right? They have their personality, and their personality is fully, they fully embody it, right? They just can't articulate. They just can't write it out or showcase it. But these kids, they're fully in their personality, right? And I think they're drawn to, especially adults, and what I've discovered in my own, again, over a decade of just interaction with young children, is that they are looking for adults who they want to become, right? And again, we think they're looking for adults that are rich, or looking for adults that are privileged, or because that's, as adults, that's what we are looking for. We're always looking for rich or privilege within each other, because that's what we're in, that kind of programming, right? Where we judge each other really harshly, right? And we only want from each other, but we think we got to get somebody who's rich or privileged or whatever that is, that programming. But kids, they're not looking at adults for like rich privilege, right? When it comes to the things they have and all the cars and the possessions and the wives and all that kind of stuff. They could care less. They're looking for an individual who's rich inside, right? Kids, they don't care about how rich the car, They want a rich personality in an adult. That's what really activates, awakens, and just gets them moving, right? That's what they you'll see kids, they're always looking. They're curious, they're always watching, they're always listening. Even when you think they're not, they're always watching and listening. They're always paying attention. They absorb things like a lot more than we as adults can, right? They can absorb languages almost, it seems like, in a week. Because they just get it. They see, they listen, it comes in, right? So I found myself just interacting with these other little kids, and we're all like in a little group, almost like we formed like a little community, right? And there was only maybe like, 4 of them, 4 or 5 kids but I could just feel in the eye contact. And I don't have this eye contact with adults. I do not. This eye contact with these kids, or they couldn't articulate, they couldn't express, they couldn't speak to me and how they're feeling and what's going on inside their brain, right? But in the eye contact, in the eye gaze, I felt they understood me, right? They wanted to discover me, and they discovered something about me, and they mirrored that back to me when I looked into their eyes. They discovered something about me, right? And that's really what it is to understand, is to discover something about someone or about yourself, or about something, right? And in looking at these little kids' eyes, I discovered that I have a niche, right? A talent, like we all do, and just they're all in different ways. And mine happens to be this inner child, right? I draw that out of people. I draw that out of people around me, my friends and family, and out of myself, and out of adults, and even I draw it out of the children. And what's extraordinary about being able to draw out the inner child of a child is that these children, they can sit with me, they can hug me, climb on me, and they can be that. They can love that. They can be free in that, and they can know that's the adult they're meant to be. And I think there's something quite interesting about that kind of connection, right? A kid connecting with the inner child of an adult, right? Not an inner child that's wounded or angry or upset or disconnected and disturbed or abused, neglected, and none of that. I'm talking about inner child, an adult that's empowered, that's enthusiastic, that's liberated, that's inspired. I think there's something quite interesting that kids, to see that in an adult, it's almost like the way they look at it, the way they explore it, the way they want to be around it. It's like that's the richest thing to a kid. That's richer than any sort of whatever the yacht the father has, the whatever diamonds the mother has, right? It's like it's a richer experience to these kids. An adult that has an inner child that's embodied, that's activated, that's healed, that's soulful, that's endearing, that's authentic. Right? I feel like kids, especially the preschool level, right? A lot of them very much are in their natural personality, and then of course it gets kind of confused and distorted and disrupted and these kinds of things as they get older, right? Because they take on all the beliefs, the programming, and all of the belittlement and the shame and the emotional pain and all that. I'm not good enough, all that kind of stuff. And it creates an adult for them that has low self-esteem, that questions themselves, doubt themselves, may obtain a lot of wealth or, have succeed in a lot of ambition, excel and achieve in many of these programs and beliefs, right? Get the biggest ego in the program of it all, but still end up with this main missing piece, like a big missing piece, right? That's paramount, basically, that you can't just put in anything into that place of this big piece. It's missing for a lot of adults, and it's the inner child, it's the soul, right? It's the natural personality, right? It gets buried, it gets shoved, it gets deconstructed, it's broken within us and a lot of adults. So we may have all these things, but we have all these kind of personality disorders, identity crisis. We know what we want, we know who we are, we're interlocking with relationships that are very disruptive and draining, or we're just lost. Is because that inner child, that soul, that natural personality that we have when we're a child in like preschool age, it really is our poetic justice, I like to say, right? That gives us wisdom and gives us knowledge and gives us freedom within ourselves. Because we can have all these programs and beliefs but not feel free within ourselves, right? Feel fearful and anxious and unsure and doubtful and unable to move your body and to move your mind, and feeling all the sort of dilemmas and stagnancies that come with that. So in the discovery I had in this simple experience that many of us probably have of caretaking for children at the park, right? To see in the eyes of these children, them mirroring to me my niche that I've always known was my niche, but to actually see it in the eyes of these children, that my niche is, I am the inner child, is a part of my, you can say, cosmic constellation, or cosmic constitution, right? It's my constitutional makeup, right? My cosmic constitutional makeup, the inner child, and exploring that and expressing that and activating that and healing that and enlivening that and using that in my life, and seeing that reflected to me in the eyes of these children, these little boys and girls. It showed me that niche, right? That simple niche that probably, and the big belief and judgment and program of everything probably doesn't seem like much, right? When we get into the adult analytical mind, it probably is like, what? That's nothing important. But according to these little children, it's everything. It's almost like it's what makes a person whole. It's like what makes an adult endearing and sincere. It makes an adult actually special in the eyes of a child. It almost like it makes an adult real. Like they're a real energy. Like they're not just programs and beliefs and judgments, right? They're real, like real energy. Because programs and beliefs and that can be, you can put that into our artificial intelligence. That doesn't necessarily mean that robot has energy, right? It's like real energy, right? It's almost like that seeing in the eyes is of these children. It's cultivating that inner child is working with real energy, right? Creative energy. Because I do believe, again, we look at all these sort of children and really, we look at, destroying energy, creative energy, that kind of thing. They're like one side to two coins, right? We live on a polarity planet, ascending and descending sort of forces. But I do believe in the inner child and the perspective of these, the natural personality that we have when we're like preschool level, is to be in your wholeness as an adult, is to achieve your creative destiny, right? Which is basically to be wise with your time on earth, right? To think highly of yourself and to be inspired and to be connected with the earth. So this is just reflections, right? Reflections of the day that can be helpful towards your reflections in your many days that you will have on planet Earth.